Hey guys, so in this video, I want to give you a quick, maybe not so quick, holiday eating survival guide for big holidays that are coming up. Right now it's Christmas, but it could be a lot of different things. So I'm talking about the big events, right, where there are few and far between in the year. I'm talking about your birthday, your partner's birthday, like the high holidays like Christmas that's just coming up, or Thanksgiving for Americans, or like Passover, like whatever it is, like the really big ones in the year. Or maybe it's just a weekend away with your spouse when you haven't had time away from the kids for a while. And you might just say, Jen, oh, for God's sakes, like why just let people just enjoy their holidays? And absolutely, like if that's what you want to do, fine. But I meet so many people who just spiral with negative emotion after going a bit overboard on like their holiday. And I have so many clients who are like, it's my birthday. What am I going to do? Do I need to count calories for it? And I just want to help you figure out exactly what you're going to do, create a plan, a realistic plan, and execute the plan. There are a few different options involved. I'm not telling you what to do, just really laying it out there. These are the options. These are the trade-offs. You decide what you want to do, and then get rid of any guilt. That's the main thing, getting rid of guilt and negative emotion associated with whatever decision you made. So there's a very dichotomous way of thinking about these kinds of holidays and how we should approach it. Most people think that they have two options. Either just eat everything in sight, no restraint or control whatsoever, stuff yourself silly, and this kind of in for a penny, in for a pound syndrome, which turns into, rather than just a meal or a day, turns into overeating for an entire period. Or they think I have to like track my calories and stay on a strict diet and in a calorie deficit. I need to avoid all bad foods and sugar and not drink any alcohol and and hit my workouts and stay totally on track on my birthday. What I want to show you is how these are two things that you can do. It's fine. If you want to do one of these two things, that's totally fine. But they are option 1 and option 4. There are 2 other options in between, and probably a lot of nuance along the way. It's not a black or white thing. There's also a lot of very dichotomous thinking and extreme thinking and distorted thinking around these days. I see a lot of people who kind of just hope and pray that, oh God, like they stuff themselves silly and they're just like, oh, I just hope this doesn't make me gain weight. Of course it's going to make you gain weight. And you need to be okay with that if you're making the decision to eat, and stop just hoping is just a noisy way of doing nothing. And then there's also this kind of, right, I need to get all these foods now because on Monday I'm back on the diet. And this kind of last supper syndrome that makes people go crazy and eat foods they don't even like and drink things they don't even like and start drinking Coke when they don't even drink Coke, because they're so stuck in this mindset of being on a strict diet or being off a strict diet. And I want to change that. I want to change how you approach this to being over a period of time, you need to be in a calorie deficit if you want to lose weight, but that doesn't mean you have to be on a really regimented, strict diet every single day of your life. We need to be able to fit these things in because you're not a robot, and you need to be able to enjoy these things. So here are the options, right? How I see it on a scale, right? So on one end, we've got that strict diet mode where you count calories and you're in a really strict, you don't give yourself any grace or wiggle room because it's your birthday. You're still dead on the diet. And then on the other end of the scale, this end of the scale, is that fuck it mentality of I'm just going to eat everything because it's all fucked anyway. So I might as well just stuff myself silly all day long. Whereas there are a couple of more moderate options in between, right? Option 2, you can choose to track, but allocate a higher number of calories. So your maintenance calories or just above. Or you could choose not to track and just be mindful about what you're eating. And this would be my preferred option, but it's what I do in my life, and it's what I would like my trainees or clients to do. But at the end of the day, it's your decision. You can do whatever you want. And I want to lay those options out so you can make an informed decision for yourself and then just move on. You've got to understand there are trade-offs involved in everything, and you've got, on the one hand, your long-term goals that you want to achieve, And that involves making some sacrifices and restricting certain things, as much as that's not fashionable to say. It does. And that's the same for your business. That's the same for your relationship. That's the same with having kids. It's the same if you want to get a degree. It all involves trade-offs, short-term pleasure for long-term gain. Saving for your pension's the same. Versus the short-term enjoyment of eating, like the instant gratification of eating. And I'm not belittling that, because eating is fun and it's enjoyable and it's a part of life. And sometimes that needs to be the option that you choose. But there's a trade-off between those two things, and you need to be really clear on what that trade-off is and really, really accept it and not beat yourself up about any decisions you make. So let's go over those two more moderate options. Option 2, where you track and you allocate yourself maintenance calories or just above. So if your maintenance calories are 2,000, you might decide, all right, I'm going to eat 2,000 calories on that day, or I might eat 2,200, 2,500, whatever. And then you track your calories, even though it's your birthday or whatever. I personally wouldn't do this, but it is something that you can do if you want to. If you want to just make sure that you're mitigating the damage and being really needing more structure around that at this stage, that's fine. It might not be what you do every birthday and Christmas for the rest of your life, but it is something that you can do. And then you just track what you eat and you enjoy eating more and you see what it feels like to eat that number of calories, and that's it. And then you move on. Hopefully I've talked to you about the weekly deficit before, that you don't, when we're talking about being in a calorie deficit, most people think they need to hit an exact number of calories every single day and be in a deficit every single day. You don't. You need to be in a deficit over the course of a week or a month. So you need to focus on the weekly deficit. And this is what that might look like. It might look like being in a good deficit for several days of the week, although that won't be linear. It'll be up and down. And then maybe around that holiday or whatever, you're just below or just above a deficit. Every calorie counts. Every bit of it counts, right? It doesn't matter if these calories are lower and it's added onto here over the course of a week. That's what's gonna matter. So you got to keep the bigger picture in mind. People they lose their minds over one specific day. You've got to keep that bigger picture in mind. So option 3 is that you don't track at all and you just be mindful, right? You go into it and you listen to your hunger cues. You eat when you're hungry, you stop when you're full, and you just move on, right? And just leave it. I'm not talking about, if it's your birthday and you're going out for a meal in the evening, you might not sort of just be able to I'll just eat whenever to listen to your hunger cues, but make sure that you're hungry for that meal in the evening, so you don't go into it already full, right? And then you can't fully enjoy the food, right? Cutting those calories a little bit lower, or making sure that you're eating normally during the day, so that you can get to your meal. And being hungry when you get to a meal is a big part of the enjoyment. You'll enjoy it so much more than if you get there full because you stuffed your face silly all day, right? Especially if you're eating in a fancy restaurant. That's such a shame to not be able to fully enjoy that experience and that food. But when you're done, when you're full, listen to your body and stop eating and leave things on your plate, or don't just continue eating things for the sake of eating things. Get to the point where you're comfortably full and not stuffed, because a lot of people feel like they need to be stuffed to enjoy a meal, or to feel like they've sort of fully, got their money's worth. Drink water. And I'm not talking about filling your belly with liters and liters of water. That's not what I'm talking about. Just make sure you drink your normal amount of water. Just sip water throughout your meal. Just make sure that you really are able to notice when you're full. Take breaks, eat slowly, mindfully. Don't just shovel it all in. Just really be there and really enjoy the foods that you're eating. And don't eat foods that you don't enjoy. I have a lot of people that tell me I just ate it because it was there and I didn't even really enjoy it. And on the journey, a lot of people say, okay, last night was great because I went out for a meal and then there was cake afterwards and I took a bite, but I really didn't actually like it. So I decided to not have it because it actually wasn't that tasty. Whereas normally I would have just eaten it because it's there. And that's a really important thing to do. You know, don't avoid the foods that you like, make room for the foods you like, get that chocolate fudge cake if you want to, like really enjoy the foods that you want to eat, and don't waste it on the foods that you just don't enjoy really, because it's just a shame, it's a waste. And also don't eat it just because you think it's going to be off limits again tomorrow. This is a really big one. Don't have that last supper syndrome. So many of us are used to this crash diet, fad diet mentality where it's like, oh, I better get it all in now because tomorrow it's going to be off limits. This kind of last supper syndrome. And that's really detrimental because we just go into this spin of always being on or off or on or off. And I know people who've spent years going, okay, diet starts Monday, and then they do it for a few days, but then the next weekend they're saying the exact same thing. Oh, I'm gonna eat it now because it's gonna be off limits tomorrow. That's why none of the foods you enjoy should be off limits ever, and we should be incorporating them in your diet daily or weekly, even things that aren't healthy, to make sure that you don't feel like you can't have those foods, because this feeling like you can't have those foods puts you into this last supper syndrome mindset. The diet doesn't have to be perfect for it to work. So calories always count. They count if you eat like 1,000 calories on the day before because you're worried that tomorrow you're not going to have them. They still count. You've still ingested them. Whether they're ingested before the diet or after the diet starts, they still count. So don't get into this last supper syndrome and really try to fight that. There are some strategies for damage control as well. So there's a lot to do that you can do to buffer the effect of one single meal. First of all, one meal doesn't have to turn into a whole day of eating. You know, if you've got Christmas lunch at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, that doesn't mean you have to stuff yourself at breakfast, eat chocolate all day, snack on like all the sausage rolls and whatever else, and then in the evening eat another big meal. It doesn't have to turn into this free-for-all. It can if you want it to, but you're going to enjoy that meal a lot more if you get to it hungry. Enjoy the things you want, enjoy a portion of the chocolate, and then just move on. It doesn't have to turn, we don't have to have this in for a penny, in for a pound syndrome. It doesn't have to turn into a massive fest. You can implement intermittent fasting around the meal or the day. So you could eat less earlier in the day or eat less the next day, or not eat breakfast the next day or not eat breakfast on the same day. Like, you know, I know I'll probably get lynched for saying that, but because some people will see that's like disordered eating. It's not. It's just a strategy that you can implement. If you're punishing yourself because you ate a big meal last night, then yeah, that's a bit disordered, and you probably should deal with that, with the mindset side of it. But if you're doing it sensibly, you know, I'm full, I'm not hungry, I'm going to skip breakfast just to kind of like to buffer my calories a little bit. You know, that could be a sensible approach. And that is literally what intermittent fasting is about, right? So there's a whole protocol based on this, and there's no reason why you can't implement it around these things. It doesn't work for everyone, but it might work for you. And don't forget exercise and movement to buffer some of it. Like, I'm not talking about punishing yourself on a 2-hour run because you ate too much. I'm talking about, you know, after Christmas dinner, feeling full and stuffed, like get outside for half an hour and walk around. Just kind of like go for a walk with family and friends instead of just sitting there continuing to eat all afternoon. You know, you can do that on like at the weekend as well. On your birthday, fine. You might not do that on your birthday. You might want to get up and go for a run though the next day, like, or a couple of, like, you can use exercise and movement to your advantage just to kind of like help you digest, help you move, and help you do something other than eating. But it doesn't need to be about like burning all the calories off. So just a few things to think about. Do you really need to be stuffed to enjoy the day or the meal? Because some people really do. And I'm not sure that that's a healthy mindset. Like you might not think that restricting your calories is a healthy mindset, and it probably isn't on those days. But if you really feel like you need to be stuffed to the point of feeling uncomfortably full and it's painful and you're going to be sick, like that probably is going to reduce your overall enjoyment. Maybe and then you're farting all evening and it's just a disaster. Like that's going to reduce your enjoyment, right? Maybe you need to learn how to eat to the point where you're like comfortably full, you're fully satisfied. You don't need to keep going until, you know, you got all your money's worth. These events are always going to be a part of life. So if you're sort of freaking out about it, you have to learn how to deal with these, because every year you're going to have about 10 days that are like this. And either you're going to be on a diet and you're going to be freaking out, oh God, this is going to ruin my diet, or you're going to be off a diet and you're going to just be like, right, I can just enjoy myself because I'm off a diet. And you're just going to be stuck in that diet mentality, fad diet cycle, on, off, falling on the wagon, falling off the wagon. You've got to get out of that diet mindset. These events are always going to be a part of life, and you have to learn you have to have a strategy for them. You have to learn how to cope with them, both mentally and in terms of what you actually do. And that's really going to be important for your long-term health. And it's going to be different to normal days, your weekday in the office, working from home, or weekends with your family. It's going to be a different strategy, and that's okay. You don't have to be on a diet and then every day looks the same until the end of the diet, okay? So navigating days like this without getting out of control, spiraling, or experience serious negative emotion is part of an holistic weight loss program, okay? So most programs sort of tell you, this is the diet, this is how you have to do it, and you have to do this every day now, for the rest of your life, or until you've reached your goal weight. I'm telling you, no, like, yeah, this is the ideal day that you do most of the time, but we have to have a different strategy for these days for you to just enjoy yourself and go and have fun and eat the foods that you want to eat and not worry about calories, and then get back on track. Let's talk for a minute about a few facts on the ground. Weight gain after the fact. What happens when you actually overeat? So if you spend a weekend overeating and then you come back in the next morning, you weigh yourself, your weight will have gone up, okay? It will go up. Stop freaking out about this. Don't freak out about it. It's mostly water and undigested food. You don't need to freak out about it. You probably got a lot more like carbohydrates in your system, a lot more water being retained. It might be like 3 kilos more, right? It will most probably just come off. If you weighed yourself every day that week, it would come off bit by bit until you're back down to where you were before, and then you can start, really chipping into the fat again. You've got to accept that most of the weight gain is just water or undigested food. But studies have shown that eating even at 50% above maintenance calories, so if you need 2,000 calories a day to maintain your weight and you eat 3,000 calories, people gain fat, and you might gain like almost a pound of fat a day doing that. So you do have to be mindful that there's a big difference between, if you hit maintenance calories, or you go just above maintenance calories, or if you just go bananas and eat 5,000 calories, there's a really big difference in how that's going to impact how much fat you store. And you've got to be cognizant of that and make a decision what you want to do. Whatever you decide to do, and I really mean whatever you decide to do. I've laid 4 options out on the table. I really don't care which one you do. No judgment, no shame. It's up to you. You can stuff yourself silly all day, all weekend if you want to, as long as you're cognizant of what the consequences of that are, and you're willing to deal with those consequences afterwards, and you're not going to experience negative emotion because of those decisions that you made. I want you to make a rational decision that takes the trade-offs into account and is fully cognizant of them, okay? And it's really up to you. Just get back on track when it's over. Whatever you decide to do, get back on track when it's over. Once you finish the weekend, whether you stuffed yourself silly or stuck to maintenance calories or whatever, the next day, get back on track and get back into a deficit, and get back doing your workouts and doing the things that you normally do, and just shake it off, right? Don't spiral or catastrophize, and don't feel guilty, right? Don't have this guilt like, oh, I can't believe I did that. I completely messed it up. I completely ruined everything. Like, that spiraling and catastrophizing, it's not that bad. Just move on. And if you're having guilty emotions, reach out to me, because I want to help you with that. I don't want you to feel guilty about whatever choice you made. Don't have Last Supper syndrome, and just take responsibility for your choices, right? You're a grown adult. You can decide which one of these things works and what you want to do. I have a big problem with coaching programs and diet plans that tell you exactly what you should do on the holidays, and give you a really strict guidelines for how much to eat and when to eat. Like, that's not empowering you to make informed decisions. And the way I work is empowering you to giving you the information you need to make the decisions, giving you the permission to make whatever decision you want to make, and then just deal with the consequences. Like, accept responsibility for the consequences, and just don't beat yourself up about it or blame others, right? Just take the responsibility. And finally, remember, we are talking about 10 days of the year, right? Where the really, really, really important occasions. And obviously we need to talk about, what you do at the weekend and what you do, like, for more minor occasions and things like, or when you're stressed or whatever. But there are about 10 days of the year that are really big occasions, really, really important to you. And people are so worried about what they're doing on Christmas, on their birthday, and it doesn't really matter. It's a very small percentage of the year, and it doesn't matter that much. What are you doing the other 355 days a year? Because if over the rest of the year you're really making progress towards your goals, you can lose a lot of kilos in that time, and have those 10 days where you just go bonkers, and you'll still reach your goals. You'll still be on track. So really keep that in mind. That don't catastrophize it. Really enjoy those days. They're not days for dieting, but don't let yourself spiral afterwards. Just allow yourself a little bit of grace during those times, and understand that that's a normal part of healthy diet. I hope this was helpful.